one of the first churches. It's the oldest church that I can find so far in the area, and being still active as well. We'd like to welcome everyone today as we celebrate our Confederate heritage and to honor the 16 known soldiers out in our cemetery, as well as the unknown, unmarked graves out there of our other soldiers. That there's plenty of unmarked graves out here. As you look at the cemetery, there's this big wide grass space over here, right here beside the church, and that is all unmarked. That's not free space. That's unmarked graves. And since 1839, that was the oldest part of the cemetery there, and that's why we have so many that's unmarked. We hope you leave here today with a sense of gratitude and respect for the heritage that God and our ancestors have given us. I'll ask Joey to stand right now and lead us into a word of prayer.
Dear Lord, we thank you for letting us come out here today, Lord, be with us through this service. Thank you, Lord, for our heritage, what it means to each one of us. Just be with us, keep us safe from harm and danger on our way home, and we'll be blessed by you for all of this. Amen.
Amen. I want to take a brief moment to let you know I see a lot of different faces and new friends that we met last week, or Joey has introduced me to as well. I want to take this time right now to recognize the MOS&B chapter, the Josiah Gorgas chapter, and the General Robert E. Rhodes SCD Camp 262 of Tuscaloosa. You don't have to stand up. If you want to stand up and share something with us, go ahead and stand up. And if you're a member of those two programs, you can raise your hand. Okay. That's what we're here for today, is those two groups do a lot of things together. Of course, I'm not a member, but my husband is, and that's why I'm up here today. But we appreciate the information and the things that they do. Would anybody like to give us a brief something that you do as your chapter or your camp?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm delighted to be here representing the Gorgas chapter 299, also representing the national MOS&B chapter. I serve as the executive counselor to our AOT commander. And I bring you greetings from those two groups. And recently we had a GEC meeting in Natchez, Mississippi, very well attended, and the order is alive and well. I'm happy to report to you. On a related matter, I'd like to let you know that our heritage is under siege. There's a bill before the Alabama legislature in this session to abolish Confederate Memorial Day in Alabama. And I encourage you to contact your legislators in the House and the Senate, asking them to vote against that bill that is before the legislature as we speak. I'm delighted to be here and look forward to meeting those of you whom I've not met before.
You're not late. We did start late ourselves. We're just now beginning the program, and Mr. David is also in the SCD. Are you in the MOS&B? No. Okay. Are you commander right now? I'm sorry, present commander. I just asked about giving us a brief summary of what does the SCD stand for, what are you doing in your chapter, in your camp, Would you like to do that? We're very laid back, don't worry about it.
We're gonna get to him.
He's next. Or Joey, you can do it since,
Basically, SCV is Sons of Confederate Veterans, and, it's a heritage group, historical group that's been around since when, David? When did it start?
96.
Yeah, 1896. So, basically, we're all in the same boat, just fishing in a different hole.
okay? And that's, to some people, they don't know what Military Order of Stars and Bars stood for. And that's the different group, and like Joey said, they're just representing a different group of Confederate men. Let's see. Now, the General Isham W. Garrett, Camp 764 of Marion. Would y'all like to,
Hold your hand up and tell us a little bit about it.
right. What are you doing actively in your camp?
Well, the main thing we're doing now, mostly through Lieutenant Commander's efforts here, we've identified all 150 some odd Confederate veterans buried in the city cemetery in Marion.
Wow.
A large percentage of our interred people there are Confederate veterans.
And you said how many?
Close to, right at 150, how many exactly? Right at.
That's a lot
Right
of,
at 150.
that's a lot of men
And we,
and women.
yeah, we're taking some that the markers have somewhat disappeared, we're locating them buried, bringing them back up above ground, planting them in concrete, sort of like a jigsaw puzzle, to preserve the original headstones, and we're putting granite markers
And
and
Joe,
some claim for the camp too, so that in, 50
Right.
years they'll know who did it, the SCV camp.
and Joey and I can contest to that. We went to find Dr. McAllister's grave,
Right.
and we couldn't find it, and I poked around, and it was under about 2 or so inches of dirt and leaves and mulch, and we found that, but we didn't dig it up. At that time, Joey had had a foot surgery, and he wasn't able to do anything, so we left it alone. And by the time we got back down there, we found the marker that you guys had placed there and repaired his stone. And we thank you for that.
That's part of our charge.
Right. And
But
that's
that's the main thing we do, and of course, also Doug is working on he's identified, on his own, but through the SCV and his obviously his love and passion for our heritage, he has put together and is about to go to the publisher, a book identifying close to 600 buried veterans in Perry County. And it's a list of each one that's been specifically identified, and complete biography that you can locate on that as far as the mustering, the places he served. Just a lot of information. It's going to be great for research, family research, general research, and that's really a monumental work. And pretty much one of the first of its kind we know of in Alabama. So I'm very proud of Doug Coleman for that, and proud to say he's with us.
You just had your best Memorial Day service.
We had just over 50 folks, which you all attended, at H.K. Edgerton, who is, most of you have heard of, and most of you probably met him at some point. But, Black Confederate and bona fide. He's an honorary member of probably 100 different camps in the country.
Does he pay dues?
If he does, they're paid for him many times over.
You know, I'm sure.
But he's one of a kind, and
He
very
is.
important for our work in trying to eliminate some of the controversies we have surrounding our
share today on our heritage, please raise your hand and share with us. This is the time to do that. Now we want to recognize the daughters of the American Revolution, the United Daughters of the Confederacy, and the Children of the Confederacy programs. I do lump those all three together because I think we only have one person, maybe two here. Raise your hand for any of those three. Okay, there you go. Would you like to introduce those three, any of those three programs or all three?
Am I the only one?
Come on, let's do that.
Well, let's see, the Daughters of the American Revolution is the sister organization for the Sons of the American Revolution. And there's a chapter in Tuscaloosa. And I think that our biggest program right now is working on Greenwood Cemetery. Sorry, I'm having, in my head, I'm having to do the evergreen Greenwood thing.
That's right.
Greenwood Cemetery. And then the United Daughters of the Confederacy, the UDC, we have several chapters around this part of the state, but there's two in Tuscaloosa and one in Vernon, Alabama. And then the Children of the Confederacy, we have a chapter in Tuscaloosa with members across West Alabama. So
Very good. There's also the Sons of the American Revolution, but I don't know, do we have anyone that represents that? Mr. Bell?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Would anybody like to share on that? Is it an active chapter? Where is it? What are you doing actively now?
This is called Coosa chapter in Shelby County. They've got, I think, over 80-something members.
That's a lot. That's wonderful.
They've got their color guard there that does over anything. And, what else have they done? They've had some markers placed here recently, and they do the color guard after you get placed with a D-Day card.
Okay.
I'm with the Black Warrior chapter in Tuscaloosa, and it too is active. I think there are 38 members on the roster, and just met this week. Good chapter,
Good.
active chapter.
That's wonderful. Are there any other programs, anything else that I'm missing that you'd like to recognize at this time? This is a lot of come-togethers, whether you call it a camp, a chapter, a program, whatever. This is a lot, and you never hear about any of it really unless you personally know a neighbor or a friend that's involved in this. Our media is not going to recognize any of these programs. We are going to have to recognize these programs. And whether you're a person that likes to go to meetings and clubs, I'm not one of those, but I love to help those clubs and chapters. I like to be involved in things like this. I'm just not that monthly or quarterly person that wants to find a reason to get together as a group. That's just not me, and some others have said that as well. And there's nothing wrong with those people that get together and love to socialize, and that's what it takes. But I'm just not in that group. Let's see. As we meet to honor the memory of these Southern patriots, let us not forget that we also honor the memory of the thousands of soldiers, the sailors, the civil servants, and the devoted Southern women who struggled for the cause of our Confederacy. Yes, there are some people that live in the South that have Northern ancestors, and we love them to death. Most of them. But let's not hide or bury the memory of our Confederate people. Any of the ones that I'm kin to, my history goes back, my genealogy. If they had slaves, they were not called slaves, and they were not mistreated. I do, when we get into a conversation with complete strangers, I would tell them that it would be like in the early 1900s when a farmer had sharecroppers. They got a percentage of something. Well, the black people that lived on my family's farms, they had a place to live. They had a roof over their head, and they were thankful for that. They had a responsibility. And who doesn't need a responsibility? We even give our children responsibilities, and they learn from that. So, what's wrong with that? We didn't have slaves. We had, what else were they called? The people.
Servants.
They were called servants or
My people.
my people, and there's something else that would, it might have been my people is what I was thinking of. But as far as our black people around here, when you get someone, I love when a black person used to come up to me at a reenactment and try to start talking about slavery. I'd say, "Oh, really? Have you done your genealogy?" No. Well, they don't know if they had slaves or not. They just know what they've been told. It's not all negative. To me, it's not. I wasn't up north. I know that there's a lot of prominent names in the north that had slaves. And while Abraham Lincoln was talking about freeing the slaves, his wife was the slave owner. I guess that's where he got under that little thing there, that he didn't want anybody to know or whatever. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, I'll get back on topic.
Can I tell you a story?
Sure.
I'm Bill Thomas. My third great-grandfather, Benjamin Thomas, he fought in the Miami Wars under Mad Anthony Wayne, and he fought in the Nickajack Wars around Chattanooga. But he came to Murray County in 1801. And my second great-grandfather was the first white child to cross Duck River, which is Cherokee hunting land. Okay, so Benjamin was a very prosperous farmer. He only had 300 acres. He didn't have thousands. But he had a black man named Alfred that worked under him, that worked for him. He was a slave. Alfred knew the Bible back and forth. And so my third great-grandfather allowed him to be like a circuit rider for white and black families in Murray County, Tennessee. And he gave him his freedom, I think 1820s. Alfred got sick. They brought Alfred back to the house, and he lived in the house with him until he died. Now that's a true story of how people were treated back then.
Right.
And that's in the obituary of him in 1873.
Okay.
So that's an obituary. So that's true.
But society now wants us to forget that, and they want to go over that true story with anything that they can think of as harsh as they can tell it. Don't forget, as I was talking about the sharecropper system or the slave that lived on the farm, a lot of times they took on the last name of their master because they thought that much of them. It it wasn't because they had to. And I always ask, if I had somebody that I wanted to work for me, yeah, I saw Roots a long time ago. And they were always whipping them. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but if you've got somebody that you want to work for you, are you going to hurt them every day and then expect them to work for you and produce what you're trying to make a living off of? I don't see it. I see that as Hollywood. I don't see that as the South. If there's anyone here that would like some help on finding anyone in this area, Joey and I have dug into a lot of different things, and some things we find and some things that is not in our family line, we can connect it up with yours. If you've got any questions, just see us after the program, or if you're brand new and would like to do any kind of genealogy, we'd be glad to help you with it as well. We would love to let you know your Confederate history, but it doesn't have to be just for the Confederate. It just needs to be for your history. Okay. One more thing. If anybody would like information on the future programs and services of this church, I've got note cards up here. Instead of a notebook, I don't want everybody accessible to your information. But if you want your information with our church, give me a note card with your information and how you want me to contact you, and Joey and I can take that on, as well as Tim Smith is here. We only have a handful of members in this church. 9?
Yeah, 9.
Nine. So if we have 6 members, we're like 80%, 85% here. So, our numbers look good when you put it in percentage. Our people have died or moved away. We'd love to have you. Our services are most of the time on first and third Sunday. Right now, we're in the United part. And we're getting out of that. Sorry. Joey wanted me to also give you the brief history on the church. This is Liberty Episcopal. How is it put on the, I meant to bring the copy of the deed. Episcopal Methodist, is that the way it says?
Yes, it was.
Liberty Episcopal Methodist of the United States of Americas, United Americas. 1839 is when this place was founded. Somewhere right along in this area, if you can see the cemetery sign out there, we think that is about where the first log church stood. The original Liberty Methodist Church stood. This church was started as a pilot, I think it's called a pilot church, and what they did, when we have Sunday school, they would meet and they would have families that they were grooming, I guess you could say, what we say now, to go out and start other churches in the area. And we're talking wagon and walking is the way people got around. So if it was 5 miles from here, they would send that family over there and start another church. And this, there's a few here. New Hope Baptist Church is not like 3 miles from here, and they were started from this church. And Pleasant Valley Church over here at the intersection about 5 miles away, it was also started in this way. And so this was the earliest church that we know of. China Grove is not as old as this church originated, but it does still have an older church building. The first church that we know of was the log church, and in the very late 1800s or the very early 1900s, they built the larger one-room country white church, as you know, that you've seen around. In 2011, that church was blown away the same day as the tornadoes hit Tuscaloosa. We had 3 tornadoes that spun off of that tornado in this area. And one of those is the one that hit here. It was knocked about. That church sat on your rocks for your foundation, and the ceilings were 14 foot high or something like that. And there used to be lanterns that used to be hung on this rod in the back, is the way they had it. And of course, we had electricity, and a few years before it got blown away, we even had the air conditioner and the heat installed. We were moving on up. But the 2011 got that. It knocked it about 3 foot, maybe 4 foot off of its foundation. It pushed it backwards away from the steps. And there was nothing that we could save out of that building. We did save some pews, but they didn't work in here. Now, this church, we didn't know if we was going to build back because so few own membership. And so far out in the country, everybody wants to go, live somewhere else. But that we had so many people to say, you can't do that. My grandparents are buried there, and that is my church. It means so much to me to have this church and to have homecoming. Whether I make it or not, I know it's there. So that kind of put it in our head that we had to build back. Being that you had a dozen and less at that time members, how in the world are we, few people, going to build the church back? And so many people were saying, oh, you got to build it back the way it was. No, you couldn't do that. You'll never be able to do that. So we wanted to do something on our own. And this is what we came up with. We didn't have big backers on money.